is your company. Your platform is called Corda. This sounds rather ambitious that you're going to become the OS of financial markets. Explain to us how it works.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Corda is an enterprise-grade blockchain platform that allows companies to transact and interact with each other using smart contracts and with a high level of security. So really they're using that technology, the blockchain technology, as a basis for working with each other, transacting information, and then being a lot more efficient.
So you're considering an IPO as well. How far down the track would that be?
We have no, I can't discuss that, and that's probably far off in the future. But no, we're right now we're focusing on building the business, building the ecosystem. We have over 200 developers building on our platform different solutions for financial services and also for other industries as well.
All right. And what sort of time frame are you looking at to make this live and operating?
Oh, no, this is live right now. This is live right now. So again, as opposed to other platforms, we do have companies doing live transactions right now. If you go to our marketplace, you can see that there's over 64 solution providers are showing their wares. We have 4 or 5 that are live right now in gold trading, in vessel insurance, and also in trade finance.
So where in the region do you see most potential?
In Asia, again, we've seen everywhere is growing. I think obviously, here for Hong Kong FinTech Week, I mean, Hong Kong and Singapore are taking the lead on many of these initiatives, the government itself. But we're also seeing, countries like Thailand, and of course China is doing a lot in blockchain in their own way. But we see a lot of the central banks working to learn about central bank digital currency, to learn about how regulations are going to have to change to allow blockchain services, blockchain platform like Corda help their businesses, help the financial industry be more efficient.
So how many developers, firms, or tech partners are choosing to build on Corda at this point?
It's a really interesting question because in some ways we don't know. We know of about 200 that are building right now, but Corda is an open source system. So there's hundreds of ones that we don't know that are building right now, and we only find out when they complete the system. So I was up in China a few weeks ago and met 2 developers that had built systems for trade finance, had never met them before. They'd built it, now they come because they want to use the enterprise level of Corda because they want to link to financial institutions. But as an open source system, there are thousands of developers around the globe that are working on it, and we only find out about it until when they want to come on the Corda platform.
So what we have now is to cover more of the whole thing of R3. And again, I want to show you guys this real quick, just in case you missed it. We did do a deep dive, and it's right here in regards to R3, XRP, and Corda. Now, of course, we all know about the whole thing of R3 XDC bridge. Pretty darn big deal. But back to the whole thing in regards to Ripple's XRP. So let's jump into it. Thank you again to Mr. Michael Cornwell, who has this. All right, so here it is. Mr. ISO 222, let's do it. Rohitku talks about how all of R3 Corda DLT integrations, you have the whole thing of XRP, XDC, even Algorand, Hbar, and Quant. Let's blow this up for you guys. So you do see Quant on the top left, DLT connections to Corda, interoperability with SIA. We've done a few, obviously, big deep dives in regards to that. You even have, for instance, Energy Web Token, tokenizers, number 2, crypto that's part of his portfolio, apparently. You have Hbar, consensus service for Corda. How about XDC? Obviously, XDC. Hybrid network through DASL bridge. Always talking about that XDC R3 Corda bridge. How about, for instance, Corda specifically in regards to XDC network, right? The Corda bridge on XDC network. You have also Algorand, which I'll be honest, I wasn't aware of that, so this is new to me. It's called Fiducianoni, which I imagine is Italian. Digital uses Algo and Corda. So the bottom line is this. It says right in the middle, permission DLT network built for the banking sector by the banking sector. Number one is regulatory compliant. We're talking about ISO 222 being regulatory compliant. You have ISO TC 307, the quant network standard, how that's tied into the tokenization of CBDCs, the APIs, you name it, right? But that's their exclusive standard created by Gilbert Verdian. You have multiple consensus pools, regulatory standard compliant. Who are some of the founding members? And this is big because we've been covering this whole thing about JP Morgan. I think I did about 4 videos now, different parts in regards to quant and JP Morgan. So again, you could take a look into some of that if you want to get caught up with that. If you're like, I just don't understand what Max is talking about, it's okay. You're not the first. But this one says, for instance, 10 trillion a day. Says, for instance, Q&T, JP Morgan connection. I'm not saying that quant does 10 trillion a day. Is JP Morgan does 10 trillion a day in payments, right? When we talk about tokenized assets, think about it for a second. I do a full deep dive breakdown on why that's important. This other one that on the right says Q&T is the key. It elaborates a little bit more on that. And then the third one, so technically, I guess you could say today will be the fourth. If we get more into it, we have time. It's this one says, now is the time. Here's why. It talks about Citi developing token services for institutional clients. Citi, RLN, right? And that whole thing of RLN with Citi and also JP Morgan, and of course Quant's Overledger and how we tie it all in. So again, it's kind of like a 3 or 4 part series. You might want to look more into that if that's your thing, or you want to learn more about Quant. It's there for you. All right. Yeah, let's jump back to what we have in regards to this whole thing. So here it is. You do see those founding members. State Street. So we talk about, you know, your Bitcoin spot ETFs. State Street also has apparently an application. We get more into this. You have Goldman Sachs is kind of hard to see right there because it's smudged. All right, bottom line is this. Which institutions or traditional, you know, TradeFi uses Corda? Great question. How about Fidelity, right? I had a friend many years ago. He killed it with his Fidelity investments, especially when it came to investing into, like, you know, railroads and that type of industry. Nexi did a deep dive in regards to SIA and Nexi. That right there, Quant stands out big time. Going more into this, DTCC. You also have the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, NASDAQ, Wells Fargo, right? When we talk about Wells Fargo, I immediately think of, for instance, you know, the whole thing with Ripple XRP. In the future, by the way, Quant Papa and I are working on the whole thing of Wells Fargo and Quant, just to give you kind of like a little teaser. Now, getting into this, here's an update. R3, are you aware, is a unified ledger. So when we talk about, you know, when we had Will Fix on the show, and you remember last Thursday, Will was talking about XRP, private and public merge, right? Well, some people are like, that's old news, but he elaborated on some of his findings for it. I want to elaborate on this. R3 is a unified ledger. Why is that so important? Well, if you've been following our coverage, it's not just Quant, it's not just XRP and so on. It's tying in all of this, the unified ledger, right? You got the XDC connection. Why are you not holding all these ones tied to this unified ledger? Your XDCs, your Stellars, your Ripples, your Quants, right? Your Hbars. Max, you don't hold Energy Web Token. I know, I get it, right? But let's jump into it. This is again from Mr. Man. We cannot thank him enough for his coverage that he brings on a continuous basis. So please give him a follow over at Mr. Man XRP, and he's doing pretty well. He's up to almost 10,000 subs since he gets, or followers since he gets to that. I believe it's like double the monetization as compared to YouTube. So hats off to him. This is about roughly a little over 2 minutes. Listen to some of these guys from R3. I think it's a big deal. Here we go.
It was passing through my mind there, as you said, Richard. You know, what did happen isn't what we expected to happen, and of course what happens isn't necessarily what ought to happen. You know, Todd, you put it another way, really saying, you know, the market kept giving me this message, and eventually I had to stop trying to tell them the answer. I don't know whether markets are like customers and the market is always right. I doubt it. And the reason I'm having these slightly dark thoughts is because it occurs to me that maybe the market or the institutions in the market don't actually want that single set of rules, that interoperability between different networks. Because if we look at what's happening in the token markets, we find individual banks are building individual tokenization engines in-house, hoping to keep their existing business. We see exchanges doing very similar things, building these competing token platforms, albeit without really any tokens being issued onto them, but certainly keeping themselves in that game. You've got all these tokenization projects which are taking place inside individual asset classes, in bonds, in private equity, in real estate, and so on, or in different financial functions, in payments, securities financing, stock loan, whatever it is. So it's a very fragmented marketplace when you look at the regulated capital markets. And so the point where R3 began as a collaborative venture has given way now to this dozens of competing subscale projects. And my dark thought is, is there a risk here that the institutions are, again, inadvertently, overtly trying to build, like the internet pioneers did before them, like AOL did back in the 1990s, a set of walled gardens? So to put my question plainly, is that resistance to that single set of rules, that unified ledger, that single programmable platform, is it actually deliberate, or is it just a political fallout of the reality of these marketplaces, what was going to happen?
All right. So bottom line is this, right? This is even for my own notes. Some people ask, Max, I need to know something, and that is how much money will be moved through R3's unified ledger. And that's a great question. I'd be asking that if I was a person like yourself in the audience as well, right? So bottom line is this, right? The exact amount of money can't ever, be exactly known. But, what we do know is that it is expected in regards to R3 to be a significant amount. The company, of course, has a large network of bank and financial clients that we know. And it is, the ledger itself that is being used for a variety of purposes, including, of course, cross-border payments, trade finance, hence XDC, and asset management. So, it kind of hits all the major criteria of why we get excited about that, especially when it comes to the big institutional money.